Hey folks, thanks for tuning in. Today I'm going to be using some 2x4 pressure treated stock to build a gate, a 2-hinged gate for our deck, just to keep the kids inside when we need them inside. It's going to look like this, although this SketchUp design I'm not going to do until after I actually build it, just so I can get onto the build. And then it's going to look something like this on the deck, which I'll show you as I put that on also. I'm going to try to use some dados to try to keep the width of the gate very small, so it's within the dimensions of a 4x4, so it fits into the deck very well. So we'll see how that goes. Let's get started.
I don't actually show myself putting these boards up, but these boards go in between the staircase railing going down the stairs. This was just to provide a place to put the hinges for the gate. I don't remember what the angle was for this, but it was kind of a goofy angle. It took me a couple tries to get it right. But there's two of these, one for either side of the staircase. Now I'm getting into actually cutting the stock for the gate itself. Looks like here I'm cutting one of the top pieces of the short side of the gate. Decided to do two different widths, just so we had one bigger one. Instead of doing it right down the middle, we'd have two pretty small openings in that case. So we have one bigger opening and then one small that is pinned in place for most of the time. Laying things out to make sure I have the proper lengths and amounts. We ended up deciding, after I had cut most everything, that the horizontal boards that you see there that are double stacked, we actually cut those in half, just to make it look a little bit lighter and also take some weight out. I'm marking where I need the dados for the pickets to go in place. Using my table saw sled to put the dados in, just running them over the blade several times, and I'm setting the depth to half the width of the pickets.
So here's one of the boards I just cut, and it came out perfect. Not really. This is a great example of me getting excited and making that happen. Put the dado on the wrong side. So thankfully I had another piece of 2x4 that I could replace this with. So measure twice, still cut 3 times is sometimes how it turns out down here.
Now it's back to putting the dados in the boards. You can see there I have the fence of the table saw blocking one end and then a block on the sled actually to make a stop on the other side, so I could flip the board over, flip it over properly, and do the 2 outside dado cuts. And then I readjusted the fence and the block to do the inside cuts. So this is the shorter gate being cut, and there was just 2 dados in this one, so I just had to flip it over to do the other dado.
So a little more proof to me as to why I like to do the SketchUp models of pretty much everything I build before I actually start building, so I can see every little detail of the piece before I actually start. When I was on probably about the last dado or second to last dado, I realized that I was cutting them to a depth that was exactly half the width of these pickets, which means when I put them in between the two dado boards, I was only getting 3 inches and not 3.5 like I planned. I was going to put the picket in, and I was going to have a little bit of a gap in between each picket. But in doing the dado the way I did, we're down to 3 inches, which means the wide boards, which are going to be all the way around the gate, have a 1/2 inch extra flange on them now. So what I think I'll do is rip a 1/2 inch off. I'll have to run them through the router and put a roundover back on them. And then I will mount the gate flush on the hinge side, and you won't be able to tell from the outside. It'll be indented a little bit, but what you don't know doesn't hurt you. So I'm not going to tell anyone about this, so if you keep it quiet, no one will know. What you don't know doesn't hurt you.
Back on the table saw, I am cutting down that 1/2 inch that we just talked about on the outside parts of the gate and putting the roundover back on at the router. Here I'm actually cutting the pickets to the proper dimensions, and these also get run through the router after they are cut to length on the chop saw. The gates are already laid out. I actually set down the old door that we took out from the entryway to the deck from the house, just so I had a perfectly flat surface assembly table to be built soon. So I'm just putting some screws to pinch the pickets in place, and also screws to put the frame together, making sure it's square. Using my speed square, as you can see on the left, to hold everything square. Since this time I've actually gotten a bigger speed square, which would have been awesome for this situation, but the little Swansons work just fine. So the screws that I'm putting in on the left hand side there are actually holding the pickets into place. I also screwed from the bottom into the top of the frame, just so you don't see any screws from the top.
So when I went up to test fit the gate, ran into a little bit of an issue with it being too tight. Kind of expected this. I built it right to the dimension, and it was just too snug, and you won't be able to open and close the gate. So what I'm going to do is run a power planer over each of the 4 sides twice, taking off 1/8 of an inch on each end, and that should give me a 1/2 inch of clearance, which I believe will be enough. A little bit risky, but I'm going to just drive these screws a little bit deeper and try running over the top of them. I believe it should be just fine.
So with the pieces upstairs, they seem to fit very well after planing down the 1/2 inch. Here I'm measuring up from the deck to the top of the railing. Measuring and putting the hinges on with the supplied screws. Putting one hinge in place and using the level to make sure the top is level. Holding it with my left foot. So this one looks good, so on to the next side. Again, measure, put the hinges on, using the pencil to space it out, and mounting to the post. And seeing how it works, the smaller gate does not close if the bigger gate is closed, but that's fine because the latch will actually be in the way anyway. So this is the pin to hold the left side stationary, and I'm putting a hole in the deck so that it will go through. Putting a little hardware on, and there we go.
Well, it seems to work, which is a good thing. Came out alright, matches the deck, which is what we were after, and it will definitely keep the kids cooped inside if that's what we need. I do plan on putting one of these storm braces across this, because you always are going to need one, but I need to cut and recap it, which I'll do another day. I'm Tyler, I like to do it myself. Have a good one.